I'm a 33-year-old mom of two. Ben is 6, Lily just turned 3. My husband Nate is 35. And then there's Diane, my mother-in-law, age 63, fully retired, very opinionated, and the self-declared queen of parenting advice. She raised Nate as an only child with a live-in nanny and hasn't let anyone forget it since. I used to work full-time in HR, but after Lily was born and we saw the numbers on daycare, it just didn't make sense anymore. My paycheck barely covered the childcare bill, so we made the call. I stay home now, and Nate works in it. Since then, I've been the default parent, cook, cleaner, scheduler, appointment maker, snack cutter, tantrum dodger, you name it. I do about 90% of it. Diane sees that as laziness. Every Sunday, we're expected at Diane's house for dinner. It's been a tradition since before I joined the family. Doesn't matter if the kids are sick, if we had a late night, or if I've barely slept, I'm expected to show up with the kids, dressed nicely, with a smile. Most weeks, Diane is too tired to cook, so I end up bringing a dish or helping prep something while keeping Lily from throwing wooden blocks at the dog. Diane usually stands in the kitchen, watching, commenting. Her favorite way to criticize is by pretending it's casual. Like if I'm wearing leggings, she'll smirk and say, "Ah, the uniform of modern motherhood." If the kids act up even a little, it's wow, they sure have energy, followed by a look that says she thinks I raise jungle animals. Nate, he's not a bad guy. He plays with the kids, helps when I ask, but when it comes to Diane, he folds like wet cardboard. Anytime I bring up her comments, that's just how she is. I've heard that phrase so many times I could tattoo it on my forehead. Last month, for Ben's birthday, Diane bought him and Lily these giant remote control monster trucks we'd specifically asked her not to get. They were loud, breakable, and a choking hazard for Lily. When one of them broke the same day, Diane made a show of saying, well, maybe if someone had been watching better, I let that one go. Same with the time she told our neighbor. She's one of those Pinterest moms. Cute cupcakes, but probably can't make a sandwich without a tutorial. My neighbor told me that with an awkward laugh, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. When I told Nate I was getting tired of the digs, he nodded and said he'd talk to her. I never saw it happen. No change, no acknowledgement, nothing. Ben came this past Sunday. Dinner started off like every other. Ben knocked over a cup of juice while trying to reach for bread, and it splashed across the table and onto the floor. I grabbed napkins and was blotting the table when Diane, with her arms crossed and voice loud enough for everyone to hear, snapped, maybe if mom wasn't so lazy, her kids wouldn't act like animals. The room went silent. My father-in-law didn't say a word. Neither did Nate's brother or his wife. Everyone just stared at their plates. Nate didn't flinch, didn't defend me, didn't even look at me. I didn't say a thing. I stood up, picked up Lily, told Ben to grab his shoes, and walked out. No yelling, no scene, just we're going home. I got the kids in the car, drove home, bathed them, and put them to bed. I sat on the couch in silence for a while, unsure what to even do with the rage bottled up in my chest. Nate walked in about 45 minutes later like it was just a normal Sunday. He asked, "Are you really still mad about what she said?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him. He stared back, confused, as if he genuinely didn't get why I was upset. I told him that wasn't just a one-off comment. It was 6 years of jabs, of being talked down to, of being treated like the unpaid help. And the worst part wasn't even what she said, it was that no one spoke up, especially not him. He told me I was overreacting. I told him I was done reacting altogether. I needed a break. From Diane, from the Sunday circus, from the whole mess. He asked what I meant. I told him I wanted to know something. If Diane really thought I was so lazy, I wanted to give her a chance to prove how easy my life is. I would hand it all over to her. The routines, the diapers, the mealtimes, the errands, the emotional landmines. Everything. I asked, let's see how she handles the load for 48 hours. I think she'll manage? Nate blinked at me like I was speaking a foreign language. I wasn't joking. I already had the plan forming in my head, because I was done being polite. Let her walk a mile in my Crocs. Let's see how Diane holds up. Monday morning, I waited until the kids were occupied with their cereal before calling Diane and Nate into the living room. I didn't drag it out. I told her I'd be gone from Friday 5 p.m. to Sunday 5 p.m., and she'd be in charge of everything I usually do. No work, no appointments, just home, kids, meals, chores, routines, all the stuff she thinks is so easy. Diane blinked like she misheard me. Then she laughed, loud, full-on belly laugh like I just told her we'd won a cruise. She waved her hand like I was being dramatic and said something about raising a child already. I reminded her Nate had a full-time nanny until middle school. I laid out the conditions. No outside help, no calling friends, no hiring a sitter. Nate wouldn't be stepping in unless it was an actual emergency. She'd follow the routine exactly the way I do it, if she really wanted to show how lazy I've been. Nate opened his mouth to object. I held up one finger and reminded him that he said I needed a break. He didn't say anything after that. By Wednesday, I'd finished the binder. 3-ring, color-coded tabs. Each kid had a daily schedule, food preferences, allergy warnings, nap and bedtime steps, and a list of important contacts. There were pages for medication dosages, emergency protocols, even favorite lullabies. Diane took one look at it and said she wouldn't need any of it. I left it on the kitchen counter anyway. Friday at 4:45 p.m., I zipped my weekend bag, kissed the kids, and rolled out the driveway. Drove 40 minutes to a budget Airbnb with a working heater and a day spa 2 blocks away. I put my phone on silent and didn't check it for an hour. By 6:07 p.m., I had 3 texts from Diane. The first, how do you get Lily to nap? She won't stop crying. Second, do we really need to go to the park tomorrow? I didn't answer. Nate called around 6:30. He told Diane I was unavailable. Apparently she wasn't thrilled about that. By 10 p.m., no more messages had come through. I took a long shower, watched half an episode of something trashy on Netflix, and fell asleep on fresh sheets without anyone jumping on me. Saturday morning, I slept in until 9:00. No tiny fingers poking my face. No screaming over cereal. Just silence. When I finally checked my phone, I had a new notification. Diane had posted a photo of Ben and Lily on Facebook, still in pajamas. Hair wild. Ben holding a half-eaten Pop-Tart. The caption read, "This is harder than it looks." I cracked up. Around noon, I got a message from my neighbor. She'd run into Diane outside. Apparently, Ben had a stomachache. Turns out Diane had fed him fish sticks and jelly beans for lunch. He threw up all over the back patio. She was scrubbing it when the neighbor walked by. At 2 p.m., Ben's soccer coach texted me, asked if everything was okay since Ben had missed the morning game. Diane had completely forgotten about it. She later claimed she couldn't find the cleats. They were in the basket labeled soccer gear right by the door. At 5 p.m., I opened a bottle of wine and sat in the tub for the second time that day. My phone buzzed once. A photo from Nate, the living room covered in toys, dishes stacked in the sink, and both kids bouncing on the couch. His message, "They're still not asleep." She doesn't understand the bedtime routine. I turned my phone face down. I'd left clear steps. Bath start by 7:15. Pajamas picked out before that. 2 books each. Lily needs her favorite elephant toy, or she won't sleep. Ben can't have sugar after dinner, or he gets wired. Diane had rolled her eyes at every single one of those instructions, and now they were all paying the price. Sunday morning, I woke up to another Facebook post. No photos this time, just text. I don't know how moms do this every day. Total respect. Still didn't message me. Not once. I spent the rest of Sunday reading, eating takeout, and watching something that wasn't animated. My last stop before heading back home was a small candle store I'd passed on Friday. I bought one that smelled like lavender and smug satisfaction. At 5 p.m. sharp, I pulled into the driveway. Nate opened the door looking like he'd aged 5 years in 2 days. Diane was sitting on the couch with her hair tied up and the binder open in her lap. She didn't look at me when I walked in. Just stood up, handed me the baby monitor, and walked past me without saying a word. The kitchen was a wreck. Lily was wearing a swimsuit. Ben had marker on his arms. There were half-folded towels on the stairs, and someone had spilled juice under the dining table. I didn't say anything, just put down my bag and started picking up blocks. Nate followed me into the kitchen and started rinsing dishes without being asked. First time in a long time. I think 48 hours did more than just tire Diane out. It showed her, and it showed Nate too. I finally got to sit down later that night. My phone buzzed at midnight. One new message from Diane. It said, "I may have underestimated you." I replied, "I know." Sunday morning started with a text to Nate. Both kids are crying. Lily keeps asking for her mom. Ben won't eat cereal. What now? He showed it to me while I was pouring hotel coffee. I didn't answer. I didn't even flinch. I turned off my phone and went back to watching the tiny electric fireplace in the Airbnb. This wasn't about payback. This was her reality check. About an hour later, Nate tried calling. I let it ring. He paced the floor a bit, but I didn't engage. He's spent years dodging the hard stuff. He could sit with this one. Back at our house, Diane hit her limit. Around noon, she called her husband, my father-in-law, asking him to swing by and help with the kids. He said he was on the golf course and wasn't leaving. Word for word, I want no part of this. Then came the laundry incident. Ben had an accident overnight. Diane tried to strip the bed and wash everything, but she shoved it all, sheets, towels, a decorative throw, into the dryer on high heat. The result? Half our linens came out shriveled or scorched. She left a note on the washer that just said, "Who uses linen sheets with kids anyway?" She finally opened the binder. Nap schedules, food DOS and Dawn teas, a section labeled Laundry 101, all sitting there the whole time. She stuck a post-it on the front that read, "Who makes this many lists?" Around 11:30, Nate told me Diane snapped. He was in the kitchen when she exploded, ranting that the routines were ridiculous and I must be some kind of machine to pull it off every day. Then she stormed upstairs to rest her eyes and left the kids in front of a tablet. I didn't need updates. The internet gave me one. Around 2 p.m., my sister-in-law posted a photo on Instagram. Diane was fully asleep on the couch, mouth open. Lily stood behind her, proudly drawing on the wall with a red marker. Caption, "Super Granny holding it down." The parent-teacher conference was at 3 p.m., a virtual one we'd had on the calendar for weeks. It was on the fridge, on the binder schedule, on Nate's calendar app. Diane forgot. Ben's teacher emailed me directly. She was confused and a little worried because no one logged on. I replied from the Airbnb, apologizing and saying we'd reschedule. At 4:55 p.m., I pulled into the driveway. Diane didn't come to the door. Inside, the house looked like it had been hit by a mild tornado. Marker on the hallway wall. Kitchen counters cluttered with snack wrappers, cups, and dishes. Lily wore a swimsuit and mismatched socks. Ben had pajama pants on and a hoodie. There were 2 wet towels crumpled on the stairs. Diane stood up from the couch, didn't say a word, and handed me the baby monitor like she was clocking out from a shift she never applied for. She picked up her purse, walked out the front door, and drove off without saying goodbye. I started cleaning up. Nate helped without being asked. He grabbed the dishes, loaded the dishwasher, and even wiped down the stove. Didn't need a prompt. No sighing or pretending not to notice. Just did it. Around midnight, I heard my phone buzz on the nightstand. One text. From Diane. "I may have underestimated you. I didn't overthink it." I replied with 2 words. "I know." The next morning, I started calling around to set up therapy. Not for Diane. For Nate and me. Because the last 48 hours didn't just expose her. It exposed a pattern. We'd been in survival mode for so long that we stopped noticing the weight I was carrying alone. Diane just dragged it into the light. The funny part? She still thinks this weekend was about her. It wasn't. It was the first time in years I got a real look at how badly things had gotten, and how long I'd been cleaning up everyone else's mess while no one noticed. Next step, we're going to unpack all of it. And Nate's either going to meet me in that work, or he's going to get left behind. Tuesday night, Nate and I sat in a small office with beige walls and a ticking clock. First joint therapy session. I didn't waste time. I opened by saying it felt like I'd been screaming into a void for 6 years and nobody noticed. The therapist turned to Nate and asked how he supported me on a daily basis. He blinked a few times, looked up at the ceiling, and said, "I provide?" I let out a short laugh. Couldn't help it. Even the therapist raised her eyebrows and scribbled something down on her notepad. Nate shifted in his seat but didn't say anything else. Since the weekend disaster, Diane hadn't contacted me. No texts, no calls, no how are the kids, nothing. Which worked out fine because I blocked her on everything: phone, social media, even Venmo. I told Nate if she needed to communicate, she could go through him. I was done being a direct line for drama. Nate didn't love that. Said blocking her felt extreme. I reminded him that letting her call me lazy in front of our kids, with zero consequences, was what actually got us to this point. Boundaries weren't extreme. They were overdue. I made it clear, no more Sunday dinners. No family traditions that involve me cooking while being insulted across the table. If Diane wanted to see the kids, it would be on our terms, not hers. And I wasn't going to be in the same room with her until there was a real apology, not a performance. A real one. A few days later, Nate got an email from Diane. 3 paragraphs long. The usual spin. Said I was trying to drive a wedge in the family and using the kids to punish her. She actually referred to herself in third person. Diane deserves respect for trying her best. What Diane deserves is a hobby. Nate read the email out loud. Halfway through, I got up and started folding laundry. I'd heard enough. Then came the family group chat. My sister-in-law dropped a message saying she felt bad for Diane. Said she understood why I was upset, but maybe I should let it go and apologize for setting her up. Like I planted the fish sticks and jelly beans. I didn't argue. I just left the chat. No long goodbye. Just tapped leave conversation and kept it moving. That night, Nate got a surprise message from his dad. First time the man has ever taken a side in anything. It read, "Your mom had that coming." That was it. 5 words. But for him, that's practically a speech. And meanwhile, things at home were quieter. No snide comments. No awkward Sunday countdowns. Just regular life. Ben started sleeping better. Lily stopped throwing tantrums every evening. The whole house felt lighter, like someone had cracked open a window. Midweek, Nate helped me make dinner, played with the kids without checking his phone, and offered to do bedtime without being asked. Later, he said something that stuck with me. It's like I got hit with a fire hose of reality. That 48 hours broke the spell. I told him this was his moment, his chance to start showing up differently, because I wasn't going to keep dragging him forward. No yelling, no lectures, just one sentence: "I'm not reminding you again." On Thursday afternoon, Nate's phone rang. Diane. She asked if she could stop by just to talk. I didn't wait for him to finish. The answer was no. She tried to sweeten the offer with homemade lasagna, said it was her peace offering. I told Nate I'd rather eat glass. I reminded him I blocked her for a reason. She hadn't apologized. She hadn't acknowledged a single thing she did wrong. If I saw her on our doorstep, I'd call the cops or the Huey, whichever showed up faster. An hour later, she showed up anyway. Knocked twice, then rang the doorbell 3 times like it was some kind of standoff. I stood behind the door and watched through the peephole. She stood there with a foil-covered dish and a forced smile. I didn't open it. I didn't move. After 2 minutes, she placed the lasagna on the welcome mat and left. I picked it up with 2 fingers and dropped it straight into the trash. It didn't even peel back the foil. Nate asked if maybe she was trying. I asked if he thought she was apologizing or performing, because dropping off food isn't the same as accountability. 2 days later, she sent him another email. It was longer than the first and nastier. She said I was clearly overwhelmed, that my emotions were clouding my judgment, and that she was just worried about the children. She ended it with a line that stuck. If she truly loved those children, she'd accept help, not reject it. At our next therapy session, I brought a printed copy and read it out loud. The therapist looked at Nate and asked, "Do you think your mother respects your wife?" He sat there for a long second, then said no. I guess I didn't want to admit it. After the session, I gave him the clearest line I could draw. If she talks about me again like that, she doesn't talk to us at all. No back doors, no birthday calls, nothing. Your choice. Later that night, I got a message on Instagram. It was from a burner account with no profile picture, but the name was too familiar to ignore. It was my sister-in-law. All it said was, "Okay, maybe you had a point." I replied and asked what changed. She said Diane had started nagging her too, about everything. Baby names, preschool choices, even what color they were painting the nursery. Apparently, Diane said muted tones were emotionally repressive. That was the last straw for her. I unblocked her main account. She asked if we could talk sometime. I said yes. Only her. Nate hasn't mentioned Sunday dinners since. The house has stayed quiet. The binder's still on the kitchen counter. I haven't touched it. I told him I don't need his mom's love. I'm not waiting for her approval. I just want her out of my lane. He nodded. For now, that's enough. Diane went quiet for about a week. No emails. No doorstep food drops. No group chat drama. Just silence. Until the Facebook post. She wrote this long, sugary status about the beautiful chaos of motherhood and how modern moms are juggling so much these days. She tagged Nate. Not me, just Nate. The post kept going. She talked about how family misunderstandings can be painful, but sometimes it's just because we love too much. She ended with, "Some moms are just misunderstood. We all make mistakes." Comments rolled in. Aunts, cousins, her retired church friends. "You're such a strong grandma. They're lucky to have you. Some people don't appreciate what they have." I got a screenshot from a friend within 5 minutes asking, "Is this about you?" Another one messaged, "Is she seriously trying to rewrite history?" She was. Diane wasn't apologizing, she was rebranding. Making herself look like the wise, wounded matriarch while skipping over the part where she called me lazy in front of my kids. Then came the email from Aunt Kathy. First time she's ever contacted me directly. The subject line, "Let's be women about this." Inside was a polite guilt trip. She said Diane meant well, that she raised a great man, and maybe I should find it in my heart to let this go. I didn't reply, I just blocked her. I'm not playing tag with Diane's backup dancers. Then it got weirder. Ben's school called to confirm an update on the emergency contact list. They said Diane had submitted a volunteer form to help in his class and had listed herself as an alternate pickup. I never approved that. She wasn't even on the list before. I called the school right away, told them she wasn't authorized, sent them documentation of custody arrangements, and told them not to let her near either kid without written consent. Then I emailed Nate and let him know exactly what happened. Word for word. I told him, if she tries to go through the kids, the school, or my accounts again, we're getting legal involved. Cease and desist level involved. He didn't argue. He picked up the phone and called her. I didn't hear the conversation, but I saw his face when it ended. He told her to stop, told her I wasn't exaggerating, and that he saw what was really going on now. She called me manipulative and accused me of poisoning him against her. He hung up and blocked her. It's been 3 full days of nothing since then. No calls, no texts, no passive-aggressive posts, not even a drive-by. Diane is finally quiet. In the meantime, Nate made dinner twice this week without being asked, helped get Lily into her pajamas, read to Ben, even wiped down the bathroom sink after bath time. He didn't act like he was doing me a favor. He just did it. At our next therapy check-in, the therapist called it progress. She said accountability doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it's small things being done without a scoreboard. But she warned me, control freaks rarely go down quietly. She's not wrong. I don't think we've seen Diane's last move, but I stopped waiting for it. I'm not scared of her anymore. I'm just watching now. Carefully, quietly. It's been 7 full days of silence. No texts, no emails, no porch drops. Nate and I have had the calmest week we've had in years. We both kept her blocked. No unblocking out of guilt. No secret numbers. No, she emailed my work stunts. Just total lockdown. Midweek, my sister-in-law texted again. Mom's losing it. She bought a book called Toxic Daughters-in-Law. I didn't respond. 2 days later, she left the family group chat and sent me a screenshot. Diane had posted a Bible quote about Jezebels in the family. Sister-in-law replied LOL and exited. We've heard through Nate's cousin that Diane's trying to plan a family healing dinner. No one's RSVPing. Even Nate's dad has shifted. He sent Nate a short text, asking him to tell me I am tougher than anyone gave me credit for. First time he's ever acknowledged me directly. The kids are calmer too. Lily hasn't had a bedtime tantrum in 5 nights. Ben's sleeping through without waking up and wandering the hallway. The whole house feels like it exhaled. Diane still hasn't apologized. Not really. Her style of sorry is passive-aggressive sympathy that's more guilt trip than accountability. I'm not interested. We've replaced Sunday dinners with Sunday hikes. No screens. Just the 4 of us and some trail mix. The kids love it. They actually ask if we can go exploring now. Nate surprised me this week. He signed up for a parenting class on emotional labor. Said he needed to rewire some things. No prompting. Just did it. Therapy's still going. We're not perfect, but the difference between being heard and being listened to? Huge. Then yesterday I got a card in the mail. No return address. Handwritten. Inside it just said, I hope you burn out and come crawling back. D. I showed it to Nate. We didn't argue. We went straight to a lawyer. We sent a cease and desist for harassment and forwarded the letter to the local police department just to have it documented. Nate told me afterward, if she contacts you or the kids again, we're filing for a restraining order. His words. Not mine. This whole thing started because I left for 48 hours. That's all it took to reveal the cracks. But what Diane learned in 2 days, I've lived every day for 6 years. I'm not lazy. I'm just done being quiet. And I'm never, ever sitting at that Sunday table again.